And let's remember our motivation and really think that through what we learn and share together today. May we grow as human beings. May we increase our ability to see things clearly and to be of benefit to other living beings. And in this way, may we progress on the path to full awakening. So let's have that as our motivation for being together today. Okay, so we've been going through this book, An Open-Hearted Life, for quite a while. And there's little vignettes in it, that kind of deal with a certain topic, and then a reflection at the end of that. And so today we're on the chapter 18. It's called Beyond Blame. Okay, so, if you ever think about blame, it's one of our favorite things to do, isn't it? Kind of when things go bad, it's not my fault, it's somebody else's fault, and this is illustrated completely perfectly by the characters in our government. Yeah? Isn't it? Oh, it's not me, it's them. The Republicans say, it's the Democrats, and the Democrats say, it's the Republicans. Obama was the only one who said the buck stops with me. I really respected him for that. Because everybody else says, oh no, it's not me, it's somebody else. Yeah? And that kind of attitude doesn't solve any problems. It just creates a lot of distracting chaos, doesn't it? With everybody just calling each other names. So, yes, we can look at other characters who do this and say, it's ridiculous. But when we're involved in a situation and things don't go right, we do the exact same thing. Who, me? No, it's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's their fault. They did this and they did that. And if only they hadn't, and if only they had, but I'm just, innocent me. Either that, or we go to the other extreme and think that we're all powerful and we can make everything go wrong. So it's all my fault, people did those things, but actually it doesn't matter because I'm so powerful, I can make it all go wrong. Yeah? Isn't that what's going on when we blame ourselves? Isn't it an overinflated sense of our own power? It seems like self-deprecation. Oh, I made everything go wrong. It seems like we're putting ourselves down. But I think actually it's an inflated sense of our own power. Yeah? When something goes south in a relationship, is it only due to one person? Yeah? Me, I'm the bad one. Or them, they're the bad one. It's so kind of rigid and black and white. And life isn't like that. Yeah, we all have some responsibility for different things. Yeah? But also, I think responsibility and blame are very different. Okay? Like, instead of saying, I blame the other person, or I blame me, what about they have some responsibility for certain causes and conditions, and I have some responsibility for certain causes and conditions. Does saying it like that change the tone of the whole discussion? Yeah? Because when we say the word blame, blame has the connotation of wrong, bad. There's a very moralistic connotation to the word blame, or fault. It's someone's fault. Whereas for me, I don't know about for other people, but I like the word responsibility. Like, yeah, part of it is my doing, and part of it's the other person's doing. And I'm responsible for the part that was my part, and they're responsible for the part that's their part. And I shouldn't get those two things confused, because as soon as I blame somebody else, I'm saying they're responsible for both my part and their part. Plus, I'm judging them and putting them down. Similarly, if I say it's all my fault, I'm the one who blame. Yeah, I'm judging myself, and I'm taking responsibility for some of the things that are their responsibility. And confusion in our relationships is not going to get solved by, projecting responsibility where there is none, whether we're projecting it on others or projecting it on ourselves. Yeah. Rather, if we assume responsibility for the part that is ours, yeah, then we can start at least to fix our part of what's going on. And we can't control the other person. Yeah. We can't make them do something unless they're under 3 years old. Yeah. But after that, it's very difficult to, you can make somebody do something physically, but you can't necessarily change their mind. Whereas if we are mature and take our share of the responsibility and work on the factors that, we can change, because we were the ones who, did or created those certain causes and conditions, then the situation can change. But as long as we're always giving the responsibility or fault or blame to somebody else, then we're just sitting there like, well, I can't do anything to solve this problem. It's all up to them. Yeah. So we stay stuck. We make ourselves into a victim. Okay. Whereas if we say, okay, the whole thing isn't my responsibility, but some of it does. Some of it is, and I can change this part. And changing our part is good enough, because as soon as we change our part, which is the only part we can change, the whole situation is going to be affected. And it can't continue the way it is. Yeah? The other person we cannot control. We may be able to influence them, but they have to come to their own understanding that they contributed some things to the situation too. Yeah? We sometimes like to inform them of what they contributed. Yeah. And we say this in a rather loud voice, repeated a few times. Okay. But that doesn't really get through to the other person. Yeah. Sometimes we're not the right person to tell them what their share of the responsibility is. Sometimes another friend or somebody who's, at the sidelines of the situation can say something that would get through to them a little bit better. Yeah. Or sometimes saying something in a nice tone of voice might get through to them. Sometimes you have to say it in a rather strong tone of voice. So it depends on the situation. Sometimes better somebody else, sometimes better us in a nice voice, sometimes better us in a strong voice. We have to see what's going on. But the primary thing is that we deal with our part first. Yeah. And we don't always like owning our part. Yeah, to really look and see, ew, I did that. Well, actually, when I look back on it, I was being kind of manipulative. Or, I had a kind of rotten motivation doing that. Or, what did I really expect from saying that? And sometimes it's not so pleasant to really see what was going on inside of us that motivated that action. Yeah. But acknowledging that and owning it is the way to really start to change ourselves and to change the situation. Yeah, blaming the other person, it's playing Republicans and Democrats. Yeah, that's not getting us very far right now, is it? Okay, so let's look at the chapter. It says, while anger and the tendency to blame may arise in our mind, they are contrary to the qualities all of us admire, such as love, compassion, tolerance, and forgiveness. So right away, blame is contrary to the qualities that we want to develop in ourselves and the qualities we appreciate in the world and the qualities we wish more people in the world had. So we aren't modeling what we respect. Yeah. So there's some problem there. From our own experience, we know that when anger and blame arise in our minds, there is no space for love and compassion at that moment. True or not true? It's true, isn't it? Yeah. Your fault. There's no kind of forgiveness or compassion or anything. Therefore, to cultivate the qualities that bring peace in ourselves and in our relationships and in society, we want to seek ways to subdue their opposites, like blaming, attributing the fault to other people, and so on. Okay? We often say, that person made me so mad, don't we? Yeah? That's standard language. Yeah, please get rid of this. That's standard language. That person made me so mad. So we often say that as if anger were a virus we caught from someone else. Yeah, that person made me sick, That person made me mad. So their words, their actions exuded some kind of like virus type of thing, that came into our ears or into our eyes or on our skin and made us mad, like made us sick, So it's all their fault. They made me mad. Okay. So it's as if the other person's words were contaminated with the anger virus. And as soon as their words hit our eardrums, we were uncontrollably stricken with the plague of anger. Yeah? We believe the other person caused our anger. You did it to me. And we are faultless, innocent victims. Yeah. So why am I angry? They made me angry. I have no responsibility for my own anger. Yeah. Road rage. Yeah. Road rage? So, road rage, it's the other driver's fault that I'm afflicted with road rage. They cut me off. Okay, it's their fault that I'm enraged. Really? Yeah. From a Buddhist viewpoint, we have the seeds of these emotions in us. The other person simply waters the seed a little bit. But as long as we have the seed of anger, the anger is, is going to grow because somebody at some time or another is going to water it, even if they don't intend to. Okay? So it's kind of like our buttons, and we all have buttons, don't we? Certain things that we just can't stand. And if other people say or do that, we go ballistic. Our button is our button. We have to own our button. As long as I have buttons, somebody's going to push them. Yeah? Because my buttons are there. They're big, and they're all around me. And they get triggered by the slightest little breeze, even the breeze from when someone walks by without saying hello. My button goes, blah! They didn't say hello to me. I'm not acknowledged. They don't think I'm worthwhile. All they did was walk by. Maybe they had to go pee-pee, and so they didn't say hello. I remember we had one person living here, and he one of the reasons he left was because people didn't say hello every time they walked in the room where he was. If he was working at his desk, when people came in, they just kept walking because they were in the middle of doing something. And he just felt like so abandoned, because in his family, everybody always said hello when they walked in the room. And then he comes here and other people are actually working or going to their desk to work and don't say hello. And he was so unhappy about it. Yeah? So where is that coming from? Yeah? When we have buttons like that, then the upset is coming from us, and as long as we, think our buttons are so precious and our sensitivities are so, important, then people are going to push our buttons and our sensitivities are going to explode. Not because of what other people did, but because we are so sensitive. Yeah? So we all have things that we're very sensitive about, This person I told you about was sensitive because people didn't say hello when they walked in the room. But think about the things you're sensitive about. Yeah? Are you sensitive when somebody doesn't return a call or a text immediately? They're rejecting me. They're ignoring me. I'm not valuable. Yeah? Are you sensitive when, someone else is busy doing something and they tell you to wait before they can, answer your question? Are you sensitive when people don't greet you with an overwhelming, wonderful smile every day and say, I love you? Yeah, we're all sensitive to different things and to see what it is, And then sometimes, and I'm talking about these little things, because we got to spot the little sensitivities before we can even deal with the big ones. But the little sensitivities often cause a lot of trouble in our lives. Because we're always going to people, oh, did I offend you? Yeah, you didn't look happy with me this morning. Please, do I always have to look happy at everybody? I didn't even notice you were there. How could I have had the intention to offend you? Well, that's why you didn't notice I was there. And my law of the universe is everybody has to notice I'm there. Oh, give me a break. Yeah? Yeah? You have these kinds of things going on. Yeah? And so we just invent interpersonal problems that aren't there because we're very sensitive about everything. Yeah. You didn't hang up your jacket, and you know that when people leave their jacket on the floor, it drives me crazy. You're being passive aggressive. Just pick up the jacket and hang it. You know? It's like, yeah, when we talk about it, it's funny, isn't it? But in our life, it's not funny. Yeah, we're really serious. It's like we have some big interpersonal problem. We have to have a discussion about this. Yeah. Let's talk about the relationship. You know? Now, granted, there are times when we have to talk about a relationship. But so often, our relationship is talking about the relationship. You know, why don't we do something together instead of discuss? You know, all these kinds of things. Okay. So, fortunately, it is not the case that we are faultless, innocent victims. Okay? If it were true that someone else made us angry, then there would be nothing we could do about our hostile feelings. Yeah? And our abandoning our hostile feelings would be entirely up to the other person changing. And when is that going to happen? We nag them to change. Do they? Does that do any good? We wouldn't be able to give up our anger until the cause, the other person, changed. That view makes us into a helpless victim, and then we believe that we are justified in either lashing out at the other person for making us angry or blaming ourselves for being so unworthy that we deserve to be treated like that. Okay, so again, this all or nothing thing. They're the bad guy, or I'm the worthless one. No. Where does the anger come from? It begins with how we interpret other people's words. We make up a story. This person criticized me because he deliberately wants to harm me, or because she is jealous, or because I'm a bad person and did something wrong, or because they are prejudiced. Always them. The stories continue to proliferate as we create a drama or a soap opera starring me. It's all the other person's fault. I hate him. But if it's not his fault, then it must be my fault. I hate myself. Yeah, we get ourselves all wound up in a tangled web of our own making. This is all a product of our own afflicted conceptual mind. Is any of it true? We didn't ask the other person what her motivation was. We just assumed that we could read her mind and know her intention. Okay. Then, to find out what the other person's motivation is, we write them copious emails and texts and make many phone calls. And, what did you mean? You said the incident. What did the mean? Are you thinking of a specific incident between us? The incident, not a incident? Yeah. So we have an email, a text message, something. What did you mean by the? Okay. Yeah, because we mind read and we assume that they have some not so nice intention about us. or they're ignoring us, or they misunderstood us. So often, these assumptions are incorrect and cause problems in our relationships. Even if the other person did intentionally want to harm us, that doesn't mean we have no other alternative than to be enraged. Yeah? We think that if somebody wants to harm us, the only possible response is to get angry at them. It's not the only possible response. We have so many other responses we could have. We choose to get angry because anger gives us a sense of power. Yeah. But we also have a choice. We could also say, oh, actually, that was some small thing. I don't really need to put my life's energy into worrying about that. Or we could say, oh, maybe that person's unhappy, and that's why they said that. Yeah. Or we could say, oh, maybe that person has a certain habit that they're not aware of. But, so what? Or, oh yeah, that person does have that habit. They're throwing out a hook. But I don't need to bite the hook. Yeah? I don't need to bite the hook. Yeah. We don't need to have family dinners be the same old one as like the previous family dinner where everybody plays their own role. We just don't bite the hook. No matter what the other person's motivation is, we still have a choice about how to interpret their behavior and therefore whether or not to get angry. We have to slow down and see that this choice exists. Okay. So, for example, I don't agree with our president on many things. So I could get very, very angry at him. Yeah. But when I really look at that human being, what I see is somebody who's very unhappy and very insecure. If I look at an unhappy, insecure person, I can still disagree with their policies, but I can have a sense of compassion for them. If all I see is a person who I disagree with their policies with, and then impute, they are horrible, they are negative, na, 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 then I'm going to suffer from anger. Either way, I still can oppose their policies and, contribute different ideas to the discourse. But I can do that without being angry. And I can do that without buying into their trip either. Okay? You getting what I mean? We may think, but any normal person would get angry if somebody spoke to them in that way. Well, most people may get angry in a particular situation. It doesn't mean we have to. We are the person who will be harmed most by our own anger. The person we are angry with is living their life, drinking tea, or talking with their friends. It is us who are stuck and suffering. Our anger makes us miserable. If for no other reason than to alleviate our own misery, let's question the story we create that lies behind our anger. Let's investigate if we have to get mad. I have to get mad. Otherwise, they're going to step all over me and take advantage of me. No, we have to be very clear-minded. If we aren't clear-minded, they will step all over us and take advantage of us. If we're angry, often they will step all over us and take advantage of us too, because we've bitten the hook. But if we're clear-minded and we can see this is my responsibility, this is their responsibility, then, we can act in a way that is appropriate in the situation. And we don't have to bite the hook. If we don't bite the hook, the other person standing there with the fishing rod going like this, Usually we believe that if a problem or a bad situation isn't the other person's fault, then it must be our fault. But why do we need to even frame the situation in terms of fault and blame to begin with? Yeah, I like to really question, things a lot. Yeah, why do we even need to frame it in terms of fault and blame? Aren't there other ways to frame situations? Instead, could we simply say that things arise due to so many causes and conditions? Instead of fault and blame, many causes and conditions. Okay, I would like to propose that we go beyond blame. There is no need for there to be a guilty person to blame, be it ourselves or others. Yeah. No one person is so powerful that he or she can control all the causes and conditions that led up to a particular situation. Yeah. It isn't one person's doing. There's a whole bunch of factors, and especially, like sometimes we might think of raising a child, and then we put all the blame on the parents. Yeah. But that, if the child does something wrong, the parents are to blame. But wait a minute, what about the school system? What about the media? What about the advertising industry? What about that child's karma from a previous life? What about the child's own tendencies and habits? Yeah, there's a lot of different things going on. We can't just attribute one cause or one condition. Yeah. Situations arise due to many different causes and conditions that themselves stem from a wide variety of other causes and conditions. Rather than point fingers at each other with the thought, someone is to blame for this, each of us can accept responsibility for our own part and try to eradicate the ignorance, anger, or other disturbing emotions that lay behind it. Even if we believe that we played no part whatsoever in creating the situation, our own emotional responses are still our responsibility, and only we can change them. Each of us can play a role in doing this, and since each of us wants to be happy and none of us wants to suffer, it makes sense for us to work together to alleviate the suffering that everyone experiences in a difficult situation. Yeah? So likewise, when things go well, it's not just due to one party, it's due to many things going on. Yeah? I was thinking about, because I think you may know that there was a really horrible cyclone that spread up the east coast of India and into Bangladesh. And having lived in India, I followed some of these things that happen. And I know I've been in that area of India, extreme poverty. And the people live, right near the ocean in thatched houses, and you have a cyclone, and there's your roof, floating by, and there's the boards of your house, going the other direction. And apparently 20 years ago, there was a really strong cyclone that killed thousands and thousands of people. And that really woke the government of that state up. And they started to build shelters. So this time, when there was a warning about a cyclone, a few days before the cyclone was to strike, they sent out thousands or millions of text messages to people. They sent volunteers out. They sent police out to get people to leave their homes and go into the shelters. And they really put energy and effort into this. And as a result, so far only 15 deaths have been reported instead of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. I forget what it was 20 years ago, but a lot of people. So you look at that. So the government is getting praised for that. But who is the government? The government is a bunch of different individuals. So it's because all those individuals work together. And it's also because of all the volunteers. They had over 1,000 volunteers that went out to the villages. It's also due to all the police who went out to the villages. Yeah, there were so many people involved in helping each other. They sent out buses to drive people to the shelters, and they didn't charge people to get on the buses. Because anyway, these people couldn't afford it, So there were so many people doing so many different things. And as a result, many, many lives were saved. So we can't say it's one individual who was successful. Yeah, it's many people working together. Similarly, when things go wrong, it's many people having different responsibilities that make things go wrong. Yeah, there's so many different causes and conditions for everything. We can't attribute it just one way or another. Yeah. So the same thing with, the partisanship going on in the country right now. Yeah. Everybody points fingers to somebody else. What about me? Am I responsible in terms of how I talk about other citizens in this country? Do I put the people down, or do I talk about their views? Because there's a big difference between talking about the people and talking about the views. The views, the ideologies, we can say are harmful. But we can't say the people are harmful. The actions the people do may be harmful, but the people are not evil. Yeah? So are we monitoring our own speech in this? Or do we just, blame people and then throw up our hands? Mm-hmm. Instead of looking and saying, okay, certain ideologies are very, very harmful. Yeah, we can see that. They motivate, when people hold on to certain ideologies, they can become violent, Violence destroys peace. Some people think violence is good. Okay, you believe that. I don't believe that. Okay? But that doesn't mean you're bad. You have a view that, comes from your own conditioning. I hope that you can see one day that violence is not going to be the answer. Okay. Then there's a reflection to do with this chapter. It says, think of a situation when you were in conflict with someone. Remember the thoughts you had. Perhaps, he's such an awful person for doing this. Or, it was all my fault, me and my big mouth. If you remember blaming someone else, press your mental stop button. Okay. Instead, remind yourself that the situation is due to causes and conditions that both of you have some responsibility for. There may also be other causes and conditions in play that neither of you are responsible for. Though both of you made mistakes, you both want to be happy and not suffer. Examine your share of the causes and conditions, learn from them, and try to avoid making similar mistakes in the future. Although you can't control the other person, you can hope that he or she will do the same. Reflection. By going beyond blame, you will be able to wish happiness and the cessation of suffering for yourself and others. In short, you will have compassion for everyone involved in the difficult situation. Okay, so compassion isn't pity. Compassion simply means it's the wish for others to be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. Okay, so we have a little bit of time for questions, comments.
I have found it difficult in my life to be assertive without being angry.
Mm. Yes.
I'm thinking it helped me to recognize my responsibility and get clear about what was mine and what wasn't the others. But do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah. I think we're very habituated with anger, and so sometimes we think that unless I'm angry, I can't speak assertively. That the anger is the only thing that can make me speak assertively. But there's a difference between speaking aggressively and speaking assertively. Anger fuels the aggressiveness. Yeah. Clear-mindedness and even compassion can fuel the assertiveness. Yeah, so it's a thing, I think, to slow down and see, if I'm getting angry, yeah, okay. We have to separate anger from the correct way to deal, or a good way to deal with the situation. Because sometimes we think, well, if I stop being angry, then I'm just whitewashing the situation. And, some situations, it's not good to whitewash. We need to speak up and say something because damage is being done. Or, maybe we are misunderstanding something, and we need to speak up and get some clarity with the other person. But always to remember, I can do that without getting angry. Yeah, because we can often notice our anger. But then we think the way to get rid of our anger is to tell ourselves that the situation didn't really happen and it's unimportant. Okay, so there we have to stop. And yes, some things we get angry about, are really stupid. And it's better that we just forget about it. Other things that we get upset about, maybe there's something going on that actually needs to be tackled and spoken about, And so in this case, yeah, I need to talk about it, but without getting angry. But then we kind of chicken out. Yeah, it's like, well, if I'm not angry, then I have to actually say what I think, and the other person is going to respond to that, and then I have to listen to what they say. Whereas when I'm angry, I just speak and I put it on them, and I don't have to listen to their side of the story. Yeah, that's the charge about anger, isn't it? I can say my bit, and I don't have to listen to their rigmarole. Yeah. So we think, okay, if I calm down, then, then I actually have to listen to what they say, and they may have a point. And I don't want to acknowledge that they have a point. I want to be right. Yeah. Instead of, yeah, they may have a point, and still I have a point. We can both have points. That's the thing. We can both have points. It isn't a thing of I have to give up my side if I'm going to talk to somebody in an accommodating way. I can still adhere to my side. But I do have to listen to their side of it and make some adjustments as needed. Yeah. But then we say, I don't want to listen to them. They just blame me. They just scream. They. Again, isn't it? You made me mad. It's all your fault. Same old, same old. It's hard, isn't it? Yeah, it's hard to slow down and kind of gain some clarity. And what do I need to talk about? How can I not bite the hook and get angry? But they're doing this and that and the other thing, and I'm angry. Yeah. So it takes practice. Yeah, no lack of opportunity. These kind sentient beings always giving us opportunity to practice patience and fortitude. Yeah. Other questions or comments? Yeah?
I know there's no hard and fast answer for this question, but, and it might be different for monastics and lay people, but where I find it difficult is to know when to say something and when not to say something. Because on one hand, we live together. On another hand, a lot of the things that I think to talk about, I can resolve myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I often have a little battle going on, like, well, if I don't say anything, then this just continues, and then there could be the potential for a divide between another person, and then that's not good. It really depends on the relationship. If it's not someone who's close, no problem. But if it's someone you live with all the time, then
but even with people we live with all the time, sometimes those are the people we become really super sensitive about. Strangers, we're not so sensitive if they do this or say that. But the people we live with, especially the people we know very well, we're so tuned in to every small inflection of their voice or every way that they move their eyes. It's true, isn't it? The people you live with? Yeah. So then any small thing, just even their body posture, I know they mean this. Oh, that tone of voice, everything was normal except this word went up a little bit, and I know what that means. Okay? And so then we fall into mind reading, and we often fall into exaggerating. So sometimes we're making a big deal out of something small. Sometimes there's nothing there, and we're making a big deal out of it. Yeah? So I think, try and really ask ourselves, first, am I projecting this? No, I'm not. I know this person well. It means this and this. But then what I find works is very good is, I have a precious human life and a very short lifespan, and I don't know when my life is going to end. And do I want to spend the time of my precious human life worrying about whether this person likes me or not because of the way they lifted their eyebrows? Or because of the way they folded the laundry. They know that this was my laundry and they didn't fold it very well. you know. And we can project something on everything. And it's just, do I really want to spend my life like that? And then what you said, well, there may be something going on. That's a big problem. But if we change our mind, then usually the situation changes. You know, if it's going on for a really long time and that person's glaring at us, so it's not just some little thing, but it's a big, then what's wrong, But so often, I don't know about you, but I just look at some things and say, really, is it worth my time? Yeah? I think as you get older, you start to, to realize you don't have so much energy to get mad at every little thing that people do. Yeah? Do you agree? Things that when you were younger, you had energy to get mad at every small thing. And then, as you age, you just, well, my mother said that at one point, like, oh, I don't have energy to get mad about these things. What are you saying, Mom? But she was right. Yeah? At a certain point, yeah. But
Mom's 92. She just told me the last time I talked to her, one reason why I'm living long is I don't let anything stress me. And she really is good at that, I have to say. With 6 kids, I think you learn something.
Right. Especially your family, what you tell us about your siblings. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really true. It's like, where do I want to put my energy? Is that really that important? Or is it better for me to put my time and energy into some other aspect of maybe purification or creation of merit or something else, Why is the relationship with this one person so incredibly important, Yeah, there's 7 billion human beings, and I'm stressed and worried about the relationship with one of them. And you know what? Nobody else cares. It's true, isn't it? Yeah. One time I was in the middle of this big mess with a publisher. I had submitted a manuscript from a conference, and the people at the conference, I abbreviated their presentations into a few paragraphs and just put question instead of their name, because the answers were the really important parts. And the people who gave those presentations, who were now just a Q instead of their name, and it was summarized. They were furious. And they went to the publisher and they got the manuscript. The publisher had no business giving other people my manuscript. And so there's a problem with the publisher, there's a problem with these people, and these are very important people, and if they say bad things about me, my whole reputation is gone. It was awful. And and so that was all going on in America, and I was upset. Then I went to India, and His Holiness was teaching. And one day after the teaching, I was walking back to my room, and it dawned on me, there's over 7 billion human beings on this planet, and I am the only one upset about this situation. I'm the only one that is so freaked out by this. And then I thought, maybe it's not so important. And so I withdrew the manuscript from publication, and the whole thing ended. Yeah. Yeah, but it was just this big awakening, like, I was looking around, there were thousands of people that His Holiness is teaching. None of the rest of them knew about how much I was suffering. And none of them cared. They didn't care. And it made me wonder, if other people don't care about this horrific problem, maybe it's not a horrific problem. Duh. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, riffing off what you were saying about as you get older, for me it's almost been the opposite in some things, in that the relationships that are important, it's not worth risking them. Like what is it like when you have a big fight with your sibling, for example, and you don't talk for months, or when the family can't invite both of you to things because you're angry. So sometimes there's moments where somebody says something and it really annoys me. And I think, yeah, but boy, it's nice not to be arguing. It's so much nicer not to bother about it. So what? And it preserves the relationship, and everybody else is so much happier. Is my annoyance important enough to disturb this boat?
Yeah. So, seeing that, okay, I'm annoyed, but do I need to make a big deal? And then go from there to don't even bite the hook. Let them say that thing and let it go right past you. Yeah? But yeah, you're right. If you want to have a harmonious family, sometimes you have to just let these things go. But that's a very good point. When we, on a day-by-day basis, work out those things, then we aren't stockpiling them. Yeah. It's when we stockpile them that the little things become really big, because we haven't worked them out. Yeah.
I don't know the best way to phrase this question, but something I've noticed over the last couple of years, and that's maybe a couple of decades, is a slight cultural shift to maintain a state of not having any expectations about other people, relationships, things like that. However, an employer has expectations of his or her employee. A teacher has expectations of his or her student. And a paradox that I can't reconcile is our personal expectations can cause suffering, but I think it's unrealistic to never have any expectations and expect them to be fulfilled. So is there a way you could give some advice on how to communicate the proper way to say, hey, I expect you to have some kind of obligation to fulfill here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, is just what you said, to say it out loud. Because so many of our expectations we don't say out loud. We assume that we and the other person are on the same page, but we're not. Yeah. So I think it's very, very helpful to say the things out loud. And in some situations, you can even write them down, just as a record, so that everybody's real clear. Yeah. So when we have unspoken expectations, that can cause a lot of problems. Yeah. Because the other person doesn't know about it, and then we're holding on to something. So it's good to voice it, get things clear, and then recognize that people are people and they won't always fulfill the expectations they agree to. Yeah? And that we're the same. Very often we will agree to certain things, and then things happen in our life, or our mind changes, the situation changes, something happens, even we forget about the agreement, or we misunderstood the agreement, and we don't fulfill it. And so but there's no harmful intention. And then the same way, other people, life happens, their minds change, they forget about things, yeah, and they don't always fulfill their agreements. Sometimes they may have a bad intention. Sometimes we may have a bad intention. But so what? the thing is that I have a little slogan: sentient beings do what sentient beings do. And sentient beings are beings under the control of their mental afflictions. Yeah? So anger arises, attachment, jealousy, arrogance, who knows what arises in somebody's mind, and they don't keep their word. I have to be prepared for that. I don't want to be cynical. I want to go in with a mind that trusts people, but also to be aware that, as they say, life happens. And that I'm not immune from doing the same thing. And if I do that thing, then, I have to recognize somebody else is hurting from it. Mm-hmm.